Hey, this is Bryce Harper, and welcome to the Phillies show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Phillies show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki. It is the morning after Game 3 of the National League Division Series, a 7-2 Phillies loss. The Phillies, gentlemen, on the brink of elimination, a round earlier than they finished last season, 2 rounds earlier than they finished 2 years before. They're in a spot that I'm sure they never imagined when they all got together in spring training in February. You know, they expected to get to the World Series, win the World Series, and now they're in such a bad spot. When I watched that game last night, I don't know if there was a particular moment for you guys, but for me, it was that 6th inning at bat with Bryce Harper. Kyle Schwarber's works a walk. Trey Turner works a walk on 5 pitches. Like 4 of those pitches were all way out of the zone. And then Bryce Harper goes down swinging on 3 pitches. And I was like, that's not a good sign. And certainly it wasn't. Ruben, when you look back at that game, was there a particular moment for you that jumped out?
Well, that was certainly one of them. There's no question about that. And that was a big one. I mean, how many teams in the playoffs have 2 guys get on via walk in the beginning of an inning when you have your 1 and 2 hole guys and then your 3, 4, 5 coming up and not score? And that's one of the things that's sort of over the last half of the season has really sort of plagued the Phillies. The situational hitting, their ability to put together and string together quality at bats back to back to back. I just saw Harper in that situation. He really struggled with the angle from Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea dropped down his angle. There's been a lot of talk about, what he did and the adjustment he made in the middle of the season, based on, watching Chris Sale and from like July 30th on. He watched him on July 25th. He implemented it in July 30th, and then from then on, he's been outstanding. That said, that's one of those situations where he's got to have at least a productive out. But he ended up swinging at a changeup and then a couple of breaking balls that were pretty tough ones. The last one was well off the plate. And it was just, that was a difficult at bat for the team. And then, rarely do you see Schwarber make base running mistakes. Line drive from Castellanos to second base, low line drive. Schwarber's not a very fast runner, but he's a good base runner and he's an intelligent base runner. He gets doubled off. And that sort of took the wind out of their sails. But I think the biggest thing for them is in the early part of the season, they were getting out to early leads, just pounding people with the early leads and getting on that starting pitching. And it's been a long time since they've done that consistently. They have not been able to get early leads and give that starting pitcher a breather. There's no breather for the starting pitcher. He has to be perfect right now, and that is a super difficult position to put them in, especially when you have guys who are vulnerable like Aaron Nola to the home run. Mm-hmm. And you saw that happen yesterday with the single home runs. And really, I thought Aaron pitched really, really well. He made 2 mistakes. I don't understand why they're trying to throw in, not trying to throw in on Alonso. They're letting him get extended. He hit a home run to right. He's hit 3 home runs to right in the last 5 or 6 games. And he keeps kind of pounding him away. And then he threw it like basically a 2-1 fastball right down the middle, which is where JT was setting up for that against Winker. I mean, I saw the setup and it's literally set up right down the middle of the plate on that 2-1 pitch. And how often do you do that with a guy like Nola or Wheeler or Sanchez or Suarez? You just don't ever do that. Set up in the middle of the plate, and that's what they did. And he whacked it out of the ballpark. I mean, they served up two cookies, and they were down 2-0.
I mean, maybe did he not set up in because they don't have confidence he can execute the pitch? And I raised that because you go to that 6th inning and the Harper at bat, and Sean Manaea opens up Harper with a changeup, and he kind of, and a left on left changeup, and that pitch takes a lot of confidence to throw, and it set up that whole at bat. Now he goes away and he gets them, and that was the big turning point there.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think, and listen, I think I thought Aaron Nola was commanding the pitches fairly well. But if I'm going to get beat, why not get beat away? I mean, pitch him away, play him away. If you're going to, but they set up on that particular pitch. I'll go back and look at it again. Because I did. And JT set up literally right down the middle on a 2-1 pitch. It was just bizarre. He threw a 4-seamer right there. He threw it right to the glove, and it was crushed. I don't really understand what was going on there, whether he was trying to just get a strike or what. But anyway, there's a lot to unpack there. The bullpen's been terrible. They have not pitched well. The at bats have been horrible in the early part of the game. Alec Boehm's lost. I mean, you have all types of stuff going on right now where you're not getting what you need out of your guys, and the Mets are playing good baseball, and you got to give them credit because they're playing really good baseball. They're coming up with gigantic 2-out hits. I think about when the Boston Red Sox won their World Series. What was it in 2018? I mean, I think there was a team that had the most 2-out RBIs in all of baseball, particularly in the postseason. When you do that, man, it is a backbreaker for teams. And, Marte did it yesterday to the Phillies.
And the Phillies had a bunch of them in game 2, but I will point out they've only had 4 good offensive innings in 3 games. Right. And, they have been inconsistent really since early June. So it's not surprising, really, the inconsistency we're seeing offensively, because we all talked about it going in. That was our biggest fear coming into this series. So
It does just remind me of the past, what we've been watching for the past few months. I mean, this series just looks like late September when they were up here, not being able to string any hits together. It looks like August. It looks like July to me. And, then you sit there and go, okay, game 4, Wednesday night at Citi Field. You just don't have a great feeling about this team's ability to string together a big inning early. I mean, they certainly can do it. They definitely can do it, but it just, the more you watch this team coming down the stretch, you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the end of the 2011 season. I think there were some concerns about the offense, right, going in, and they just weren't hitting the ball that great. And man, maybe Hunter Pence can provide some punch, and then it just didn't happen. Like a couple of balls that go to the warning track, but they're caught. A couple hard hit balls. The first inning, they crushed 3 balls, 1 in the air, 2 on the ground, all outs. And you just sit there and go, yeah.
They have to figure out a way tonight, game 4, to get the ball into Wheeler's hands for game 5. But it's going to be a very tall order with the way this team chases, because, Quintana's a guy that tries to get guys out or make guys get themselves out by chasing. And this team is so prone to it. Quintana might be a bad matchup for this team. If he's missing his spots and he's over the plate, they'll hit him. But if he's Quintana, they're going to have trouble.
Absolutely. You're right. You're spot on. I mean, they've had trouble with him in the past because of that, because he knows how to pitch. He knows to stay off the plate enough to let other people get themselves out. It's a great point, Jim. One of the things I think about with this lineup is that, you don't have a whole lot of guys who are great hitters. They are dangerous hitters and they have power. But when a guy like Alec Boehm is not going well, he's one of their real good hitters. I mean, he's a 275 to 300, type of a hitter who can use, go gap to gap. Right now he's lost, and that crushes them because they don't have a guy in the middle of that lineup who are, other than Harper, who's a hitter, who's a guy that, that will work and grind in at bat. They don't have a Jose Iglesias who's grinding at bats out, who's putting balls in play, who's working, Brandon Nimmo, who grinds out at bats and makes the pitcher work and makes him throw strikes and stays in the strike zone. They have a bunch of hackers and slashers, basically, who can hack and slash really, really well when they're going well, but they're also very, very exploitable, which is exactly what's happening. And Again, it's got to be after like a level of patience and taking swings and making good hard contact on pitches that they're supposed to make good hard contact with. And that's really the formula. And it's not happening right now for the Phillies because they don't have like the classic. You would think that Bryson Stott would be that guy, that a guy like Marsh would be that guy, but they just haven't been those guys in the latter part of the season.
Bohm's drop off to me is as confounding as Ranger Suárez is to me.
I totally agree with that.
And two major, I know they're there, so this word sounds funny, but two major losses, that they're just not being themselves, not being what you got early.
We will be right back.
Hey, FT fam, it's Alana Rizzo. I can't stop talking about Vuori. Vuori is perfect if you are sick and tired of traditional old workout gear. I wear Vuori in all settings, not just in the gym, because honestly, it's comfier than whatever you're currently wearing. No joke. I'm wearing Vuori daily leggings right now. They're high-waisted with the drawstring and cupped ankles. They look good and they feel great. You're going to love them. Vuori is an investment in your happiness. For our listeners, they are offering 20% off your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at vuori.com/foul. That's VUORI.com/foul. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to vuori.com/foul and discover the versatility of Vuori clothing.
We're back. Jim, you mentioned the losses, and they're here, but they're not here. Ranger Suárez. It's tough to go into Game 4 with Ranger Suárez and saying this, man, I hope he can rediscover that October magic that he's had the past 2 years. If Ranger Suárez can discover that October magic the past 2 years, maybe they can have a shot. But really, I think you're going into it going, can he get 4 innings? Can they get 4 innings out of him? Does he get through the lineup once and then go to the bullpen? But here's the problem. I mean, Jose Ruiz, Ryan Kirkring, the bullpen is not pitching well. So it's a really, really tall challenge for him. What do you guys expect out of Ranger tonight? Or what's the best case scenario for Ranger besides putting up zeros?
Best case is that he pulls one out of what, because I don't have a ton of confidence in him. And, Ranger, he can be a touch and feel guy. And he hasn't pitched in 11 days? Okay, I know the bullpen, that's fine, but I don't think he's pitched since that Washington series, and he got lit up there. And I guess he could pull a rabbit out of his hat, but what we saw late in the season doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. And then handing the ball off to the bullpen the way they're going doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. They're gonna have to hope Quintana's over the plate and they just outslug this team. And I don't know if that's
right. So real quick, I'm going to ask you this question, Ruben. So the Phillies have said Ranger, he pitched 2 innings in that inter squad game last week, and what they've told us is, man, he looked really good in those 2 innings. Is that if you were in that spot and telling the media that, I mean, how much is that is actually truth? Not that saying that they're making it up or anything, but can you take anything out of pitching well in 2 innings in an inter squad game last Wednesday at Citizens Bank Park with nobody in the stands? Could that possibly make you feel confident as a general manager or as a manager or as a teammate if he goes out and throws well in 2 innings in an inter squad game?
Well, it can give you some level of confidence, but it really doesn't tell you much about whether or not he's going to be able to go more than 2 or 3 innings, because they really sort of need him to go as long as he possibly can and be effective for as long as he possibly can. Velocity doesn't mean anything to me. It's the way the ball's coming out of his hand and the life he has on the pitches and his ability physically to be able to make his pitches. I just don't know that he is in the same physical condition to be prepared to pitch the way he pitched in the first part of the season. In the first part of the season, he was in great condition. It was the first time he ever had a full spring training where he got his legs underneath him. His body was in a good position. His back flared up. He wasn't able to do whatever conditioning stuff he needed to do with his hips, his lower half, whatever the case may be, to sustain that when he came back. Never went out on a rehab assignment. I get it. I know why they do it now. I guess I shouldn't say I get it because I don't get it. I think he's a guy who probably should have gone out and thrown like 2 or 3 games to get himself back into a physical space to be ready to pitch in this environment right now. He did not. And so now he is, you're hoping that he can come back and have the life on the stuff he has. His life on his fastball, changeup, breaking ball, everything in the first part of the season was as good as anybody's in baseball. He was a Cy Young Award candidate and maybe the best left-hander. We're talking about Tarek Skubal right now. We're talking about Chris Sale, and we're talking about Zach Wheeler. This guy was a Cy Young Award candidate, and he was as good as it was as you can get. And then physically, now he's not able to be that guy. That's sort of inexcusable. That said, probably a lot of it had to do with the fact that he was not able to do things because of his back. The back means a lot. Back affects the lower half. Lower half affects your ability to be effective. And you're hoping against hope right now that he can do just what he did. Now, if there's anybody who can do it mentally, it's him. If there's anybody, because he can be robotic. He can be like a Cliff Lee. He can be a robot sometimes out there because things don't affect him. And I think that the Phillies are hopeful that he can do that.
I could walking out of when he was packing up and getting out of the clubhouse yesterday. He had that typical kind of like Ranger. I don't want to say smirk, but just kind of like
Swag.
It's a little swag going. He was getting his stuff together, leaving, and he kind of had a little smile on his face and a little less than a smile. But you know what I'm saying? He had that Ranger, like you said, that Ranger swag. So he didn't seem to be sweating bullets walking out of the ballpark last night. And he won't be getting on the mound. It's just, what guy are you going to get? Nobody knows.
Todd, you mentioned that Rob said he threw the ball really well in the inter-squad.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, that comment might have been as much for Rangers consumption and Rangers confidence as anything. And this whole thing about, the conditioning and the lower half. Okay, he's been back for weeks. He's had more than enough rehab starts. They've just been at the big league level.
Right.
He needs to go back in time, to April, May, and June tonight, and kind of save his team with a rabbit out of his hat. He's got to give him 5. I don't know if he can give him any more than that, but they got to hit for him. They got to hit for everybody. Give these guys some margin for error. And, I don't have a lot of confidence there because of what we've seen. The inconsistency in the second half, the inconsistency in this series. Like I said, they've had 4 decent innings in this series.
It also, like, it's not good when going into game 4, you're sitting there going, should Weston Wilson start in left field? Austin Hayes.
2 weeks either.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that is a possibility, but my point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's when you're going into game 4. It was like last year, everybody killing Johan Rojas, and yes, he was terrible offensively last year, so bad. 4 for 43, 1 walk, 15 strikeouts. But if the other 8 guys are doing their job, it doesn't matter what Johan Rojas is doing. If you're sitting there going, maybe we need to play Weston Wilson to help this offense out in game 4. What
are we doing?
What is happening right now? Something else is really not going well.
Same thing with Sosa.
Same thing with Sosa. Yeah.
Because your boys haven't been your boys. So now it's going to be Weston Wilson, and we're going to put the blame on the center fielder, and you're going to put the blame on Austin Hayes. The big boys need to be the big boys.
Right.
No question about it. You guys hit the nail on the head. The guys in the first 5 positions in the lineup can't just go, 1 hit, no extra base hits.
5 pitches.
Have, 4 pitches and out, and that stuff can't happen because if it does, the season's over. They have to be the guys, and you can talk about it till you're blue in the face. Should Stott play? Should this guy play? Should Bohm play? Guess what, guys? Those guys who are paid millions upon millions of dollars, they have to play, and they have to produce because they're not pitching around all of them.
Right.
They can't pitch around all of them. I mean, somebody's going to have to produce.
It's the old It's the old like Michael Martinez thing. Remember into the
Oh my
Rule
God.
5 guy? Everybody hated you, Ruben, because he had Michael Martinez as the last guy.
Because he was a good little athlete, and all he did was like run around the field and do, try to do as much as he possibly could.
That sunk the 2011 Phillies.
Yeah, he's definitely the reason.
But I mean, point being, I guess I made it. Just those last guys on the bench are not going to make or break the Phillies. They need some good innings from Ranger. They need the bullpen to not do what it's been doing the first 3 games. Would you throw Christopher Sanchez out there tonight? I mean, it would be.
He threw a bullpen. He threw a bullpen yesterday. Someone said, but listen, I'm all hands on deck. In fact, I wanted to discuss this a little bit. Which is Wheeler. I was Wheeler available, and I think Rob Thompson was asked about that, and he said, "Hey, everybody's available," and I believe in that. I mean, listen, you got to be able to be hands-on. Everybody has to pitch and be ready to pitch. And I get it. Maybe Wheeler can't go on Friday because of it, but you can't get to Friday unless you win tonight. So
they need one of those efforts like in 2022 when they beat the Braves. Remember they used like 6 pitchers or 7 pitchers, and they had no walks, 15 Ks. I'm not saying it'd be that extreme, but you're going to need multiples all to be on top of the game tonight. No doubt. And you're right about that, Jim. I mean, these guys have to score some runs, man. They got to give somebody a breather. And get an early lead.
Everybody talks about, well, it's Aaron Nola's fault in the bullpen. Well, guess what, guys? They had 5 hits.
Yeah.
5. No extra base hits. 0 extra.
No extra base hits. And it's a big ballpark. It's not like, it's a place you can do some damage. And I think the one saving grace I think that they might have is that they've already seen a left-hander. They just saw a left-hander who has sort of similar types of stuff. I mean, it's a little different because Sean Manaea is coming from a different angle, but they've seen Quintana a lot. They just saw Sean Manaea. Maybe they're poised to be able to make the adjustments that are necessary against Quintana. Who knows? That's the beauty of baseball, baby.
Early leads are – when you get an early lead, you put a lot of pressure on the opposing team. Now, I know you could say, well, they got an early lead in game 1. Schwarber, I mean, there's no better way to start a game. But they didn't sustain that pressure. They need to put up a funny looking number early in the game tonight, just to, again, like in game 2 when they came alive. JT said, we finally were able to breathe. Well, they need to put up an early lead tonight, a decent sized early lead where they can breathe and then sustain, because they build some confidence and they're not pressing, and it allows them to sustain because they're not just grinding the bat handle.
And they can't stop. Just like in the early part of the season, when they score early, you got to keep scoring. Got to score in the 6th and the 7th and the 8th. You got to keep scoring, because guess what? Mets aren't going away, baby. They're battling. They're busting their ass. They're playing with house money, and they're playing with confidence, and they're enjoying this time right now. You see how much joy is on their face. They're loving it, and they're believing in themselves. So you got to keep pounding at it. And you see, there's tension on the Philly side. There's no tension on the Mets side, and it's a very difficult game to play with tension.
El amor del juego.
El amor del juego. Sí.
You need a little of that.
Is that the love of the game?
Love of the game.
Yeah, you need to just let it fly. You need to love it. You need to, instead of just saying, we got the weight of the world on us, go out and just love the game and bathe in it and get an early lead and bathe in this rivalry and take great pleasure in hushing up 44,000 people.
And that's
and get an early lead and see what happens. If not, Red October is going to be quite gray.
So not only that, but that's what Castellanos was saying at the end of the game yesterday. I mean, that's what it was all about. You got to embrace it, man. Embrace it and make it happen.
Yeah, he says we've never been closer to the death. That should make us feel more alive than ever.
It's very profound. He's a deep thinker, man.
He is a deep thinker. When he said that, I was like,
yeah.
I'm going to go stick my finger in a light socket.
Feel more alive.
I want to feel what it feels like to be that close to death, and I'll never feel more alive.
Well, we'll see. We will be back tomorrow. Whether the Phillies are alive or dead, we'll find out if they get back to Game 5 on Friday night. Guys, thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
See you later, guys.
Smile, Jim.
This is The Phillies Show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Phillies Show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. If you like what we do, give us a review. Tell a friend. Catch Ruben, Jim, and me on Phillies Nation TV, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. New episodes air an hour before every Saturday Phillies game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Replays air throughout the week and on PhilliesNation.com. Get more of Ruben's analysis during, before, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Read Jim at the All City Network at allphly.com. Find more of me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and occasionally on MLB Network.